For those who have already joined us for the stakeholder meeting, we'll get started soon. Check your username and rename yourself if necessary, and make sure your video is off. Please note that all participants are muted and will be unmuted when called upon to make a comment. We're still seeing a few people join. For those of us who've already joined us, please check your username and rename yourself if necessary. Make sure your video is off, and please note that you're muted and you will be unmuted when called upon to make a comment. All right, I think we're about ready to get started. Welcome to the stakeholder meeting. Welcome to the stakeholder meeting. On the screen, there are some directions for the meeting, and we're saving questions and answers until the end of the presentations. So please, as we go along, write your questions in the chat, and we will address it either in the Q&A portion, or if we're unable to get to all of the questions, we will post those responses on our website after the presentation is done. If you'd like to ask a verbal question during this meeting, please wait until the Q&A portion and virtually raise your hand using the reactions menu at the bottom of the Zoom screen and select raise hand. Once your hand is raised, we will call on you and you can ask your question. Today, we will hear from several speakers about the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. First, we will review the CPRG Phase 1 and then discuss the recently released Phase 2 and end with next steps. Then we will have the Q&A portion at the end. Now I will turn it over to the Chief of the Air Protection Branch, Jim Boylan, to introduce today's speakers.
Hi, everyone. Jim Boylan, Chief of the Air Protection Branch. I'm very excited that Georgia EPD is working on a climate action plan and look forward to hearing feedback from all of our stakeholders. Now I will introduce our speakers today. First is Claudette Ayanaba, who started working at Georgia EPD Air Protection Branch in 2008 as a permit engineer in the Minerals Unit. After receiving her master's in environmental planning and management, she transferred to the Planning and Regulatory Development Unit as a rule writer. For the past 3 years, she was policy manager at the Southeast Energy Efficiency Alliance. In the summer of 2023, she returned to the Planning and Regulatory Development Unit in the Air Protection Branch and manages the Climate Pollution Reduction Grants. She earned a BS in Physics from Spelman College, BS in Mechanical Engineering from Georgia Tech, and an MS in Environmental Planning and Management from Johns Hopkins University. Our second speaker is Anna Aponte. Anna has a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Georgia Tech. She began her career here in the Air Protection Branch, a permitting program, and she did that for 13 years. She became an expert with the permitting of power plants and worked on the early stages of the NOx SIP call for Georgia. Later, Anna decided to go to the private sector and work for Georgia Power, continuing her work with power plants and the complex regulatory issues they face. Finally, Anna returned to EPD and has been working in the Planning and Regulatory Development Unit, where she works on SIP development projects as well as new rule development. Anna became manager of the Planning and Regulatory Development Unit in the September of 2021. I will turn it back to Claudette for a review of EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program Phase 1 and an overview of Phase 2. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Yes, so if you were not able to join us for our August stakeholder meeting, we have that posted on our website, and it has a full description of the CPRG planning grant. And it's the first set of slides that's an overview of a lot of the details that are being worked on in terms of the Priority Climate Action Plan. But today I will just do a review and a few highlights of the Priority Climate Action Plan before going into a full description of Phase 2. So the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant program is part of the Inflation Reduction Act that was signed by the Biden administration in 2022. And as part of the IRA, the Environmental Protection Agency developed this 2-phase grant program that provides funding of $250 million for non-competitive planning grants and another $4.6 billion for competitive implementation grants. So today I'll talk about some of the deliverables, requirements, and deadlines associated with this grant. And the Phase 2 information was released on September 21st. And so that's what the bulk of what we'll talk about today. Here we have the final distribution of the planning grants, which we talked about in the August stakeholder meeting also. Just to update is 46 states, including DC and Puerto Rico, chose to opt in. 4 states did not. 79 metropolitan statistical areas, or what EPA is calling MSAs, chose to opt in. In Georgia, the Atlanta metropolitan area qualified for the planning grant award, and Atlanta Regional Commission is the lead agency. For those that don't know, ARC is made up of 29 counties, 150 cities, and 57% of Georgia's population. Here are the 3 deliverables that are required for the CPRG that are spread out over 4 years. We have the Priority Climate Action Plan that's due March of 2024. These are high priority implementation ready plans. The Comprehensive Climate Action Plan due September, the summer of 2025, as named, is a more comprehensive plan that's needed. And more comprehensive than the PCAP. And then a status report 4 years after the award date will need to be submitted. We are working on 4 sections of our project, and at the moment, we are working on all 4 of these phases: the planning, the stakeholder engagement, strategy development, and also drafting the PCAP. You'll see the star in that on the chart, and that indicates that we are at the November stakeholder meeting today, and we hope to have more. Our steering committee, that is made up of selected state Georgia agency, kicked off its meeting this week. And then starting this month and through the end of the year, committees will be working on and collaborating and developing plans that will be included in the PCAP. We hope to draft the PCAP by the end of this year, and of course, finalize the PCAP by February of 2024. We are continuing to work towards our meaningful engagement goals. First, we're having public meetings like this one here, where we share information and ask for input. We have a low-income and disadvantaged communities benefits analysis that is required. And within that requirement, we must reach out to these low-income and disadvantaged communities, or what EPA is calling LIDACs, and have meaningful engagement with those communities. We have set up a steering committee, as I mentioned, and in order to leverage the expertise from these other agencies, we have met with the Georgia Department of Transportation, Atlanta Region Transit Link Authority, Georgia Department of Economic Development, Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, and of course, we were there, Georgia EPD. We also are meeting with other agencies, cities, counties, and groups throughout Georgia. We have reached out to the regional commissions and have already scheduled 2 in-person meetings. And before the end of the year, we hope to have 3 more in-person meetings in different regions of Georgia. We are also interested in partner meetings from our key sectors, which gives these groups an opportunity to connect and provide input to EPD. Now I'll talk more about the bulk of why we're meeting today, and that is phase 2, the competitive implementation grants. Our first webinar described the first phase in detail, and as I said, you can find that recording on our website. Here we again have phase 1, that's the Priority Climate Action Plan that's due in March. This is open to the lead agency that received the planning grant, so that would be EPD, or if it's an MSA, that would be Atlanta Regional Commission. Then we have phase 2 that was released in September, the competitive part of CPRG, and that is open to states, territorial agencies, municipalities, air pollution control agencies, tribes and tribal consortia, and coalitions thereof. The tribes and tribal consortia have a separate competition from the other agencies. In order for an application to be eligible for a grant, the application project or application program or application policy, whatever it may be that is applied for, must directly match a measure listed in Georgia's PCAP. And this is an attempt to illustrate that. Here's a summary of the Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO, that EPA is calling it. We have these important dates of optional notice of intent to apply by February 1st, the PCAP due March 1st, and the application for the grant, implementation grant, due April 1st. Some notable features and summary of these features is measures on applications must be included in the PCAP, as I said. And the evaluation rubric, it consists of a total of 250 points that are distributed among these different topics. And I'll talk more about the topics in following slides. You also can see here the award tiers ranging from $2 million to $500 million. And they are divided up by the higher the grant range, the less grants that EPA is intending to award. A little bit about who can apply. Individual applicants can apply, but must be a state, territorial agency, municipality, or tribe. The applicant does not have to be a lead agency of the planning grant, but must be a government agency. And if the participant is not a government agency, then that entity can apply as a partner that is led by a government agency applicant. If in a coalition or forming a coalition, those members of the coalition must have signed a memorandum of agreement. A government can submit a total of 2 applications as lead. So only 2 applications as lead. One as an individual applicant and one as a lead of a coalition. Governments and other entities can be on multiple coalitions. There is no limit as a member of a coalition, but there's a limit as a lead of an application, and that's 2. So multiple coalitions without a limit, but you have to keep in mind a few things. EPA will not award grants for the same measure in the same location. So if it, keeping in mind the geographic locations of the measures. And another thing is EPA will not award more than 2 applicants at the same level of government in the same location. Here's an attempt to illustrate the different types of applicants. So in this first circle, this is just an individual applicant, state or local government agency. The other 3 circles represent possible coalitions that involve government partners, such as multiple states, multiple local governments, or a state and a local government. And this illustrates possible coalition configurations. So in terms of partners in a coalition, remember partners can be private industry, higher education, nonprofits, or non-governmental organizations. But if they are part of a coalition, the lead applicant must be a state or local government. So what must be included in the applications? Applications may include the following types of measures. You can include a new standalone reduction measure that will be solely funded by CPRG funds. You can expand a greenhouse gas reduction measure that's already being implemented. Or you can apply for a new reduction measure that has already secured funding and you want to supplement that funding with CPRG funding. And for each measure, the application must include the following when you apply. And there's more information in the Notice of Funding Opportunity that you can We have posted in the chat, we will post in the chat, and also you can find on EPA's website. But for each measure, you need to describe the major features, tasks, milestones, the associated underlying assumptions and risks, explanation of priority, how each measure will meet the CPRG goals. The applicant must include performance metrics, an explanation of how measures relate to the measures in the PCAP, and if applying as a coalition, list all of the roles and responsibilities of each entity. And this all must be included, keeping in mind that the work plan cannot exceed 25 pages. Or here I have listed out the evaluation criteria, and there is even more information in the notice of funding opportunity. And it's broken, each of the criteria are broken down even more, but the orange arrows are pointing towards the highest ranking items. And on this slide, I just list out those highest ranking items. So describing the greenhouse gas reduction measures in your summary is highly ranked. The cumulative reductions from 2025 to 2030 are ranked higher than reductions from 2025 through 2050. So reductions going through 2030 are ranked higher than reductions going through 2050. Low income and disadvantaged community benefits must be included and are ranked highly. And then the budget detail is also ranked highly. In addition to the application deadlines, the award dates are the anticipated award dates. We have the notification that will be July 2024. If you scroll down, you look at the second to last line, July 2024 is the anticipated notification of funding selection. And then the anticipated award date is sometime in October 2024. And now I will turn it over to Anna to describe how you can participate in next steps.
Good morning. I'm going to walk through how you can be involved. So if you're interested in a measure being considered for the PCAP, we would ask you all to submit your information to us. When you submit an informal proposal, here is what would help us to make that decision and make the decision on if we can include this into our PCAP. The top 3 listed are what we must have to consider your proposal. We need to know the reduction measures and that it needs to include 1 or more of the CPRG key sectors that Claudette spoke about. We need to know the amount of CO2 equivalent reduction for each measure, and there needs to be a government as a lead partner, or you're in an agreement as with an MOU, as we've talked about with partnerships and coalitions. If you can please let us know what you're working on and what those reductions would be, then that would really very much help us. If you are listed in a vulnerable area or a LIDAC community, a workforce development analysis must be performed. So you'll have to take a look at how you may, where these reductions would be and how they would benefit the area. The last 3 I have listed, those proposals are nice to have. So if you're in an area that's not necessarily deemed a low income or disadvantaged community, but you can still, look at that analysis. Also looking at the workforce development, and of course, looking at the criteria air pollutants to see what else other benefits that you would have. And so those, we've talked about that those would be nice to have, but not mandatory. Here is what we are calling a model submission. Renewable natural gas is essentially a biogas. It's a gaseous product of the decomposition of an organic matter. And then it has to be processed to purity standards. In this example, they have a feedstock which is livestock waste from, say, like a dairy farm or chicken litter. It's fed into a digester. And then the result is you have a gas that they then clean up, and it's now processed into a point that it's now pipeline quality natural gas. You can now enter that into your natural gas system and into the pipeline. And then as an end user, you've got a product that is immediately entered into the natural gas pipeline and is a carbon neutral fuel. And then you also have as solids that come out the other end of the digester. That product can also be used as a fertilizer. We had this utility, Chesapeake, reached out to us to discuss these measures. And so this was an example of how a utility or a group reached out to us to let us know about a new technology. So what are the overall benefits of renewable natural gas as a carbon reduction measure? RNG is actually carbon negative. They clean out the methane, which is 20 times more potent than CO2. There's up to 382% greenhouse gas reduction compared to diesel scalable technology, and compared to diesel fuel. And then this is a very scalable technology. There are several projects that are already being developed in Georgia, and there's the potential for a lot more. Another reason the measure and program is a good candidate is because there's several existing projects and a major potential. I talked about that it's very scalable. Well, Georgia has a very high potential with this because of the amount of agriculture and farming. We have a number of dairy and chicken farms throughout the state. So there's a number of ways for us to actually have this natural feedstock that then could be used to create a renewable product. Here are some suggestions on how to apply for phase 2. We would like you to talk to your local governments. You can also form your own coalitions. We would ask that you all please get familiar with the notice of funding opportunity, and we will make sure that you have a link to it. And then asking you all to submit your plans to us or to ARC, and then coordinate with other applicants, which helps to prevent any of that overlap. As we talked about, there can't be competing or similar measures in more than one plan. So we're trying to alleviate having that duplicity and making sure that any applications that are submitted are fair and unique so that we would all get an opportunity to receive these funds. If you are a government agency and you have a climate plan or a measure, we need to hear from you. So here is a link to our new survey where you can describe your project and the level of reductions projected to achieve. If you are not a government agency, then we please encourage you to send it to them, ask your representatives or ask your local authority and have them reach out to us. And then these, if you attended our first stakeholder meeting, some of these will be familiar, but our first QR code, it says an EPD survey. That is our request for information. That is for anyone, even if you're not a government agency. We would ask for you all to fill that out and send in any information that you have. The second QR code is for EPD updates. That is for our announcements and our Gov delivery account so that you can receive any email outs that we have. And then the third at the top is our EPD CPRG website. It's where we try and keep all information up to date so that can be shared with you all. And then also we've included ARC survey since we are working closely with them. If you are located in their 29 county area, as Claudette showed on slide 8, the area of where ARC is going to be covering, then we would encourage you all to please scan their QR code and go to their survey. And all of these links will be provided. Here is our contact information. I am the first one, and you've met Claudette. Crystal Jackson, she is in attendance in here in our stakeholder meeting, but she's our main contact for ARC. So if you have questions for her, please feel free to share them with them. And so I'm actually going to now move to the question and answer session. Please feel free. I've seen the questions coming through our chat. So I'm going to run through those one by one, and me and Claudette and such will answer those, and we will try and get to as many as possible. So the first ones, will applications be submitted and go through ARC or directly to the agency? That was asked by Robin Adams. Robin, I am going to ask a clarifying, do you mean directly to, I'm assuming EPA? So I know that EPD is planning on putting together an application that we may be the lead on. We're still finalizing all of that. And ARC may be planning on submitting their own applications. But if there's something that would be in either of our areas, you can coordinate with us to have it included in ours if it's possible. Or you could be included in a coalition to have some of your different measures included. So I hope that answers that. Or Claudette, you have anything else you would like to add?
No, I think that answers the question.
Okay. The next question I have is, what efforts are being made to reach out to LIDACs and identify needs and opportunities? That was asked by Bailey Shea. So Bailey, one of the things that we're working on is that we're trying to get out into the community. So in addition to our virtual stakeholder meetings, we're meeting up with our regional commissions throughout the state. And that way that we can meet with the people that are on the ground and in person. So we are starting, me and Claudette and another one of our employees, Chen, we're going to be going out and joining in on those different meetings. So that's where we're starting to get out into the community. And then we have some more plans that we're still working out the details. The next question I have is, are utility regulators, public service commissioners being engaged? That was also asked by Bailey. We have not yet spoken with anyone from the PSC, but we are working with our utilities, having conversations with them, with Georgia Power, with Southern Natural Gas, and others. And so if we can get in touch with them, we would not mind a conversation for sure. And we are open to speaking with any of them, especially if they have plans in place that we could take advantage of or include in our PCAP and potentially in our implementation application. Next question I have, is there a way to be connected with coalitions that are applying? That came from Dana Thompson with the American Lung Association. Right now, we do not have a mechanism to help bring coalitions together. It's not something that we have yet necessarily had a conversation about. I would see that EPD could help service that. If we have a number of groups that come together and mention it, then we could help connect those together. But we do not have a formal process. Claudette, do you have anything else you would like to add?
No, I think that's correct. We do not have a formal process for that. We are just encouraging, if you're not a government agency, to reach out to your local government and identify what projects they may have going on, and talk to different partners that you are already have plans in the works. Because of the short timeline and limited resources, it's probably best to have something that has already been the wheels, these are projects that have already been started in some respect.
Okay. Next question, was, do public universities and colleges fall under the government agency category? I'm gonna defer that one to you, Claudette, because I don't remember.
So universities and colleges do not qualify as a government agency. They cannot join as a coalition member, but they can join as a partner to a government agency.
And we are talking with a number of our colleges and universities. We have spoken pretty in depth with Georgia Tech and UGA. And we are working with Drawdown Georgia. So we do have some connection to a number of them and are hoping to expand that. The next question I have is EPD receiving contractor support for this effort? And the answer is yes. We are finalizing a larger contract with a contractor. I cannot give out specifics yet as those details are being finalized, but we are planning on using contractor support to help for us to do a lot of the analysis and background work that's needed to fill out our PCAP and complete all of those requirements. Once that is known, then we will be happy to share that one. We also are going to have a MOU with Georgia Tech, along with Drawdown Georgia, to have them do some additional greenhouse gas inventory work that we need for our PCAP. So that one is confirmed, and so we will be working with at least those two. The next question, how is EPD thinking about the potential impacts of a proposal like the RNG example on LIDAC communities? So we've had just a informal discussion with the renewable natural gas group, but they are going to be submitting to us a much bigger analysis. And that's when we will talk to them about LIDAC communities. Where are you planning on locating? Is there areas that it will be, if it will benefit workforce analysis, you know, how does it bring new workforce or new opportunities to an area that could use it? So we will want a bigger proposal to include a lot of those different items so that we can truly take a look at it and see if it will be an overall benefit to that area and to the state.
Yeah, so that measure is a great candidate for phase 1, our PCAP. Now, the decision hasn't been made by the gas utilities or by us if that will be included in phase 2 going after the competitive grant. But it's definitely a great candidate for phase 1, our PCAP. And then if there's someone that qualifies for the application, they can go after it in the competitive portion because it's included in our PCAP. So in order to go after the competitive portion, your measure must be included in our PCAP. If it's not included in our PCAP, you cannot apply for the competitive grant.
Next question is, what are the greenhouse gas reduction measures being considered by EPD for the PCAP? Well, and I see a couple other questions coming in about Drawdown Georgia and the 20 Drawdown Georgia solutions. So this will answer a number of these questions and we can follow up as we need to. So yes, EPD and ARC are working with Drawdown Georgia and plan to use their inventory for our PCAP greenhouse gas inventory requirement. And we are planning on using the 20 solutions that Drawdown has identified. We may, you know, as part of our contract and MOU with Georgia Tech, we may refine a few of those, but we will be using that information that they have already compiled to really help us Claudette, if you want to speak anything else about drawdown, then feel free.
No, I think that's a great summary.
Okay. But yes, Jim, yes.
Oh, I just wanted to chime in. I mean, our PCAP is not only going to include the 20 drawdown Georgia measures, but it's going to include a whole lot more measures well beyond the 20 listed by Georgia drawdown. Is that correct?
Yes, because we also have a number of measures that we received from on a paper that was developed by Georgia DOT that identifies some different ones that have varying levels of greenhouse gas benefit. So we're looking at a number of areas, but we are definitely going to be using the drawdown option because it is something that is Georgia grown and developed by our university system. And so we're very excited to be working with them. And then we'll be looking at definitely beyond that, but more just to enhance it more than to eliminate anything.
Oh, and just one more. And I think, I think we've been talking about making it, trying to be very encompassing and very broad. That would allow for more applications to be submitted. The more measures that are included in the PCAP, there's more opportunities for applications.
Next question I have is EPD planning to submit an implementation application. We believe that Georgia will be submitting an application on for this implementation portion of the grant process. We have not yet identified who will be the lead agency for it. I mean, obviously right now we are for submitting the PCAP, but as part of our working with our steering committee, we'll figure out who would be the best agency to submit for the implementation portion. But I feel like that it is very positive that we would submit one. What it will entail and who will submit it is still yet to be determined. Next question, would EPD be able to assist local governments with modeling air quality impacts and CO2 reductions as a part of their implementation grant submission? I think we would have to maybe just address that on a case by case. You are looking at most of our staff that is for CPRG, so we do not have a lot of additional manpower and bandwidth to help, but it could be something that we could assist with. But I wouldn't be able to speak unless we knew some actual specifics. But we would definitely try and at least try and give you all some direction and input if possible. Next question, is there a formal process for non-governmental entities to sign up as a partner organization? We do not yet have there's not a formal process. If you are a entity that has a project that you think could be included, you need to let us know so that we can include it in our PCAP. You would need to just reach out and talk to some governmental groups to make a partnership, and you would have to have a formal MOU for that group to be able to submit an application if we were not to include it. But no, there's not an official process. You would have to organize it yourself. Next question, do partners need to be based in Georgia? The answer to that is no, because EPA is encouraging even multi-state coalitions and multi-organizational. So I do not believe that they have to be in Georgia to make a coalition in Georgia. So that at least is based off of the guidance that we've received so far from EPA. Next question, is Georgia EPD PCAP focused on the sectors of transportations and buildings? This is Chris from Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. So we have talked about that we have started in the transportation sector. We know that transportation, all things in the EV world of manufacturing, infrastructure, battery manufacturing is very important. Also the hydrogen truck kind of zone in Savannah, we're looking at that. We of course been included on the renewable natural gas. So we are not limited to just transportation. After our first steering committee meeting, we are also going to be diving into more with looking at agriculture, since that is a big area of importance in the state of Georgia. So we are not limiting to, and we do not have to stay limited to transportation and buildings. And we would like still trying to collect input to see if there are other projects that are in those other sectors that we could include into our PCAP. Next question, would it be appealing to build on other programs such as the Clean School Bus? Yes, actually, it is a very good idea. And we've heard that with some of the meetings and collaborative technical assistance forums that we've heard from EPA and other webinars that Claudette and myself have been on, where they talk about taking a program and you can build on it. Claudette mentioned as a part of her presentation, she said that it doesn't have, you can fully fund a program with CPRG, or you can supplement it. So you could, if you wanted to electrify all of your buses in your town or all of your school buses and had a clean school bus program in your town, then this could supplement so that you could get more buses or manage to replace all of them or something to that nature. So yes, you can build off of another program. And then I have one more, another question is if I would like to ask if a specific type of project would be eligible, who would I direct that question to? And that was from Robin Adams. Robin, you can contact me or Claudette. Eleanor, if you'll back up one to our emails, there's mine and Claudette and Crystal Jackson's email addresses. We would welcome discussion to see if that is something that we can include and you know, and get more information and provide you some input as well.
And I wonder if it may be best if they submit either the survey or the RFI.
Yes.
Depending on what you want to propose, if you know the exact measure and the projected reductions, I would refer to, can you go back to the local government survey, Eleanor? Yeah, so one more. This survey, so if you know the exact measure and the reduction measures, similar to our renewable natural gas model example, if you have that level of detail, I'd highly recommend you submit, answer this survey so that we can really have a chance to look at what the potential is for including in our PCAP. And it will also help us, considering we have limited resources, it will help us kind of really dive into it and look at what the potential is.
Okay, next question. Are you all looking at transportation beyond fuel, modal shifts for passengers and freight, for example? That's from the Georgia Sierra Club Transportation Committee. We have not, I would say that we have not received any information or projects that are talking about shifting and doing that as your examples listed. We are absolutely open to, if you have some projects that you're working in your community or are aware of, then we would ask you all to send that to us so we can have a conversation. We are still trying, a lot of what we're having to do is still gathering information and trying to find out what projects are being proposed and anything that we could include and be able to include into our PCAP. So if the Sierra Club Transportation Committee has some examples, please feel free to forward those to us. You could fill out our RFI and submit it that way. Of course, you could reach out to Claudette and I. Another question is, has EPD heard from any state agencies from outside of the state with the idea of an interstate coalition? We have talked with a number of our neighboring states. We have not entered in any discussions about creating a larger coalition, but that could be a possibility, but we would need to get with our steering committee to see if that is something that our state wants to pursue. But we have heard in our discussions with our neighboring states that, you know, some of the states are considering, and an example of that would be if you wanted to put a hydrogen hub or your own hydrogen corridor, and you have several states that wanted to group together and put that into their application. So those are some things that we have heard about, but I do not have any definite specifics that are being finalized yet. And MOUs between states is harder than MOUs with a smaller government agency. I believe that's the end of our questions that are in the chat. If anyone would like to speak, feel free to raise your hand. We've provided a whole number of links in our chat, and I believe one of the answers, one of the comments was making sure you had ARC's contact information, and so that has been put in there as well. So yes, if anyone else has any questions or comments, I mean, feel free to raise your hand, and I can take you off of mute. If there's anyone by phone, I will remind this one that you can press *9 to indicate that you would like to make a comment. I believe we've got a few people that have joined on phone. I saw at least one number. So that is also an option as well. If not, I would thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. And as some of our regional commissions are actually chiming in, yes, we are looking forward to meeting with you all later this month. If you have any other questions, please, of course, send that to Claudette or myself. We will be happy to reach back out. The slides and the recording will be posted on our website within a few days, so then you can receive that and see that information. And we just thank you all for coming and being a part of this process.
Anna, one more thing.
Yes.
We also are used to posting, we usually post the list of participants. So one that may help you identify other partners, but also if you do not want to be listed as a participant, please reach out to us and let us know. But otherwise, we are accustomed to posting the participant list on our website in addition to the recording and the presentation slides.
All right, then. Thank you so much for attending. We thank you for being engaging with us, and we look forward to talking with you all soon.